afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am your host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is your midday market report for Friday, July 22nd, 2022. Yes, the weekend is here, but better yet, yes, the Premier Lacrosse League is back. Our weekly trip to PA in the house. Super excited to talk shop with the lacrosse expert himself. All hot, lathered up, second half of the season. Take a look at some standings, see where some teams are, some teams that should be there, that shouldn't be there, and get everyone set to go to the window with some lacrosse this weekend. So without further ado, let's bring him in from Pennsylvania, Philadelphia himself, the one and only Mr. Dan Alexander.
Let's go, Jeff. Man, you do an intro like nobody does intros, man. Like I feel like I'm walking out of the ring. You know what I mean? Like I feel like I could take on Triple H right now. I'm hyped up to be with you, Jeff. It's great to see you. Always good to talk some lacrosse, but selfishly, it's always good to see you. That's why we do the show. But hopefully let's get some winners, man.
It's been a few weeks. Let me see. We had a week off. We had the All-Star game. We're at the break. We're ready to start the second half. Kind of quick, not quickly, but give us your recap of the first half. I mean, I'm going to just bounce over to here. I got standings in front of me. Atlas, Chrome, Whip Snakes, all at 4-1. I got the Archers at 3-2, the Water Dogs at 2-3, Redwoods, Cannons, Chaos, all at 1-4. If we go back to our first show where we talked about the season to come, give me your first half analysis.
Well, I thought, Jeff, we were really going to beat the market. I thought we were going to get a great CLV ticket on the Redwoods before the season. I told you we're getting them 8-1. This is a team that always a bridesmaid, never a bride. I don't know what is going on with the Redwoods. I wouldn't be shocked. Now, I feel like because it's such a small league, there only being 8 teams, I don't think we'll see an in-season firing, but I think the Redwoods would really benefit from a change at head coach. Now, I don't think it's all Nat St. Laurent's fault. I think, there's some other issues there. Also, kind of an aging roster, but with the talent that team has, there is no excuse for them to have one win at this point in the season. And the thing is they haven't even looked 1-4 good. Like they could easily be a winless team. They caught a team kind of sleeping on them. That's when they got their one win. So the big surprise for me on the stock down is that Redwoods team. I think we kind of knew Chaos was going to be there because we knew at the start of the season, Chaos didn't have a bunch of their players because they were playing in the NLL. Since they came back, they've gotten a win. They've looked a lot better offensively. So, I don't think that part is a shocker. I think probably the big shocker for some people, but not people who have been listening to our weekly hits here, Jeff, is what the Chrome is doing. Heading into the Chrome had, once the markets opened, the longest odds to win the title. And I messaged you. I sent up the bat signal. I said, Jeff, we're getting a plus 2,000 ticket on a team that is going to be greatly improved. So hopefully people got in on that. We got a 20-1 on Chrome, who's sitting at the top of the standings. I think that team is definitely poised to continue the upward progression that they've had. I think we're going to see the Water Dogs come on a little bit here in the second half. And we always know about the Whips and the Atlas. They're always going to be the top of the heap. So, it's going to be competitive. All teams except for one are going to make the playoffs, Jeff. So even those teams that are at the bottom of those standings, those tickets are still live. They're not dead yet. We just need a hell of a change for the Redwoods.
Going into this weekend, is there any lingering injuries or any guys coming back that weren't fully healthy before the break?
That's a great question because one of the most notable injuries is the guy who's one of the odds-on favorites to win MVP. That's Lyle Thompson, and it's the face-off guy for Atlas, Trevor Baptiste. A lot of the Atlas's success has to do with what a terrific job that he's done at the stripe for this team. It's basically make it, take it. They score a goal. Trevor Baptiste will scoop it up and head on down and potentially score another one. So I'm just scrolling over the injury report here that you can find on PremierLacrosseLeague.com. Trevor Baptiste is officially going to be out, so no face-off guy for the Atlas. That could have some implications in the game we'll talk about here in a little bit. As far as players also missing, we have 3 defensemen who are questionable for the Whip Snakes this week, and they're taking on the Chaos, a Chaos team who has a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, as they always do. So those are some injuries that I'm going to be tracking because I really like a play. It's my best bet of the week in that Whip Snakes Chaos game. If those 3 players are out, I think it's an even better look. So the biggest last story is potentially the return for Archer's attackman, Grant Amon. There's been talk that he might be back. He might not be back. He pops up on an injury report. He gets listed as out. He's questionable with a lower body injury. We haven't seen Grant Amon on the field yet. Before the season started, he was in the top 5 for MVP odds. So he's a terrific player. How he'll fit in once he gets back with an offense that's firing on all cylinders, that begs a question there. But I think Archers fans are always going to be excited when you get the potential to have Grant Amon back. So Baptiste, Amon, and those injuries on the defensive side for the Whip Snakes, those are the ones that I'm really tracking heading into the slate this weekend.
You said something to start the show, and for me, my ears perk up like a Doberman pincher. You said we were trying to beat the market. Now, last year, inaugural season, and COVID, so you weren't getting a lot of the odds up till game time, what's happening, who's in, who's out. We're able to find some chinks in the armor. As we know, Vegas always wins. You talked about the CLV can, and we'll talk to the mayor about that, obviously. How many pictures can we post with the CLV can? I mean, it's endless. So, second year in, Dan, it looks like they're already 1 year in. They're getting sharper. How have you seen the market last year compared to this year?
I think the biggest difference that we've seen, because still, if you're reading the tea leaves, if you're following Bet on Lacrosse, if you're following me on Twitter at Newbie Talks, the markets are still pretty slow to adjust to, injury news, things like that. So while the opening lines are sharper, when you get a huge move, like think about a couple weeks ago, it was when it was Atlas for Cannons, and we were both kind of saying, hey, I'm not touching this game because that 2.5 is a little bit worrisome. We don't like laying that 2.5 because profitable endeavor. If you back that, there's been 10 2.5 spreads in the last 2 years of the PLL. The underdogs in that case are 7-3. So we know when a 2.5 is there, we almost blindly play the underdog. That was a case where we were saying, I don't know. I don't know about this Atlas team. And then the news comes out the morning of the game. Lyle Thompson, the Cannon's best player, attackman, one of the best players in the world, he wasn't going to be playing. You and I both said, oh my God, hammer that 2.5, hammer the money line for Atlas. And that was Atlas covering their first 2.5 spread ever. Only time they ever were 2.5 point favorites. They covered it. They win the game. So those are the kind of things, really pay attention, because even on game day, you hear a player's going to be out. The line probably will be slow to adjust. They eventually did move the line. They eventually did close down the market, but you had a good 2.5 hours that you were able to get in on an information driven, what should be a move before the lines were adjusting to it, because they're not paying as much attention, you know what I mean, to a PLL line that, yes, there's people who are flooding in and that they're betting it, but that handle on that PLL is still dwarfed by what you're doing on an MLB slate, or even when the NBA Summer League comes around, a lot of people will bet that as well. So their ears don't perk up like that Doberman that Jeff was just talking about there, as much as it probably should. But that just means there's great opportunities for us bettors. Closing line, typically they're not the craziest, sharpest, but there's definitely been an adjustment from the books. They're doing a hell of a lot better than they did in the first 2 years, Jeff.
All right. We talked about 4 games. Let me bring up, I will be on, of course, DraftKings here. Tomorrow, 5 p.m., Redwoods at Atlas. Atlas minus 2.5, plus 120, and under over of 23.5. Juiced over minus 120. Money line right now, Atlas minus 195, Redwoods plus 160. We have talked at length on the show. You just talked about it. When you have an opportunity to get plus 2.5, it used to be auto bets. We didn't see a lot of them yet this year, early in the season, but as the season progressed, not a lot of them. Have 2 of them this week. It's the Redwoods plus the 2 and a hook. It's juicy, minus 150. Pique your interest.
I think this week is an insanely tough one to handicap, Jeff, because we're coming off of the All-Star break. And you see it even in Major League Baseball when they just had their even little brief stint that wasn't 2 weeks long like it is in the PLL. I'm so much of a situational handicapper and how spots really shape up for a team. It's, I would be lying too if I told you I would be able to handicap how a 2-week layoff is going to affect the team. I can maybe look inside the mind. I can read the tea leaves. I can look at what players are saying on Twitter or what's being said in press conferences. But as far as sides this week, I'm surprised that we're seeing 2.5 spreads just because I think it's an insanely tough week to handicap. I think you could make the argument of rest versus rust for every single one of these teams. Atlas was buzzing heading into the break. They knock off Chrome and give them their first loss of the season. Now, do they carry over that momentum, or is it 2 weeks off feeling fat and sassy? Oh my God, we can beat anybody. For the Redwoods, have they spent the last 2 weeks feeling, bad about themselves and feeling like, hey, we need to turn this around? Or have they just said, man, this season is lost. I wish we were coming back with a new head coach. There's different sides that you could make for all of these different teams. So I think that's going to keep me off of the sides in a lot of this game. Where I do think you can maybe handicap a little bit better is in the player prop markets. And how is a player going to, because you just automatically think a player who has 2 weeks of rest, he's not going to forget how to play lacrosse. So an individual player is not going to have the rest versus rust issue popping up for him. For a team, sure, maybe the chemistry drops off a little bit. Maybe, guys were partying a little bit too much, hanging out at the golf course a little too much over the last 2 weeks. So for me, the play in this game, and you're looking on DraftKings, if you're able to get down on BetMGM, we have some off-market numbers in the prop market on BetMGM, because I think what they're seeing is frustrations with bettors who are playing on DraftKings, really getting frustrated that DraftKings is basically just pricing you out of playing these props. Like, move the line. Like, don't make me play a minus 180 play. Just move the line a half point or move the line a full point. Adjust the juice accordingly. DraftKings is basically thumbing their nose at lacrosse bettors, saying, we don't want your money. As our guy Dave Sharapan, the mayor, calls it, putting up FU lines. You want to bet it? FU. Okay, go do it. So what BetMGM is doing, they have full point differences in some of these player totals, because they're saying, all right, if you guys want to increase your handle by making people not even bet these, we'll take your player prop action. So major difference in the slate on BetMGM and DraftKings. So if you're a DraftKings bettor, you would have to play Jeff Teat over 4.5. It's plus money take back. Good for you. But he's only eclipsed that number a few times. The number he has gotten over a lot is 3.5. And that's the number if you walk your butt across town and go to BetMGM and place your money there. BetMGM posting Jeff Teat's point total at 3.5 total points, only minus 130, Jeff. So I'm not a big juice guy. I don't like laying juice unless it's a play that I really love. Give me Jeff Teat over 3.5 points. If you can get it down on DraftKings, if you can get it down on BetMGM, that's the way to go in this game. I would stay away from the side, stay away from the total, but I lean with the Redwoods just because it's desperation for them. They need this game a lot more than Atlas does. So give me the 2.5 with a team who's really struggled. It just can't be an official play for me because, Jeff, this Redwoods team has looked bad, and that's putting it mildly.
And I'm glad you brought up BetMGM. I can't preach enough to whoever wants to listen. Please take the cotton out of the ears, put it in the mouth, and listen. The more shops that you are able to browse and window shop, the better off you are. And as you talk about lacrosse, DraftKings is giving you the 2 birds, and they're saying, hey, listen, it's there if you want it. Don't say we're not offering it. We're offering it, but the number and the juice is awful. If you can get a BetMGM and you can get in on Jeff Teague, 3.5 over minus the 130, then dive in.
And the thing is too, Jeff, you talk with sharp bettors, you talk with recreational bettors, you talk with professionals, you talk with, Joe at the corner of the bar, the guys who are doing this for a living, and not even just the guys who are doing this for a living. Cause the unit size that I use, the amount that I'm betting would consider me a recreational bettor because I only bet with money I can afford to lose. I don't have the intestinal fortitude to get all of my money from betting. I give, credit to the people who are able to do that, but I personally can't. However, the way that I approach games is not a recreational approach. And when I've talked to any pro, when I've talked to anybody who does this for a living, what's the number one thing they always say, Jeff? Line shop. If you do not have multiple outs, you are not serious about making money in sports betting, whether it's professional, whether it's recreational. If you do not have multiple outs, you might as well just burn your money every year because you will not be profitable at the end of the year if you're betting at one shop.
100%. Keep preaching it, my brother. So Vegas gives you, the lead in. Basically, they're giving you the Atlas here, 13-10. That's basic. Actually, I'm sorry, 13, 11, 14. Actually, let me ask you this quick question. Then we're going to move on to the next game. I don't have the team totals in front of me, but I guess they're saying the Atlas probably is going to get to 14 today. How's that sound?
Yeah, and let me just pull up this. I have a report that's tabulated from my two guys. You can follow them on Twitter, Parker Blake 60 and Brian Andrews. They painstakingly go through every closing line and let you, they tabulate this report for us that we call the Pro Lacrosse Talk PLL betting report. So that's right around Atlas's average score. 5 games played. They've won 4 games. They've covered the spread 40% of the time. They're a team that plays 40% to the over. They average 13.2 scores per game, and their average margin of victory is just about 3.6 points per game. They're also holding teams to just 10 goals a game. You look at what the Redwoods are doing this year, it's nowhere near that. The Redwoods' average score is just 9. That is less than ideal. They only have 1 win. However, they are covering the spread at 60% of the time. So, worth mentioning that Redwoods, while they haven't been great, they have at least been competitive to a degree. The last time these teams played, it was a 17-11 loss for the Redwoods. They really need to turn it around and not get rolled on early because that was in week 1, and they haven't looked much better since then.
So basically, then I will counter that and saying 13-10 Atlas. How's that sound?
That sounds good to me.
7:30 tomorrow. Whip Snakes at Chaos. Currently, Whip Snakes minus 160 on the money line. Chaos plus 130. An under/over of 22 and a hook. Juiced over minus 130. You can grab the Chaos plus 1.5 minus 110. Or you can take the Whip Snakes minus 1.5, minus 120.
Yeah, I lean Chaos on the side on this one simply because, as I was mentioning earlier, Whip Snakes are going to be potentially without 3 defensive players. This Chaos team, since they got their horses back, have shown a much better scoring ability. So, I just think Chaos, they again need this game a little bit more added motivation. And, sure, their average score on the year in 5 games is 9.8, but since they were able to get some of these players back, they just came off a 13-point outing. This ends up being a kind of rivalry game. So for me, it's square. Like, this is the square play of the week, but hey, square plays cash just like the sharp sides do, man. And the sharp sides lose just like the square ones do. I'm doing it. It's the lowest total of the week. Everybody says that Vegas, they know something. It's low for a reason. I don't think they know something. I think this is going to be the first time this matchup in the last 3 meetings is going to go over the total. At 22.5, I just think we know what the Whip Snakes are able to do offensively. I think people are going to overrate the fact that this is Burnlore in cage for the Whip Snakes and Reardon in cage for the Chaos. So I think all the narrative says this is going to be an under game. If you just look at the last meeting, there was only 17 goals scored in that game. So people will just say, oh my God, this is a dead nut under matchup, which it has been historically, but 2 weeks off, both of these teams should be well rested, and Chaos kind of knows if you take your foot off the pedal against the Whip Snakes, that's going to bite you in the ass. The Whip Snakes are the comeback kings. I don't see Chaos letting up a little bit. They know that they have to keep filling it up. We know that the Whip Snakes are able to fill it up. Give me the over 22.5 in the square play of the week. Rhombuses, parallelograms, screw them. We're going over, Jeff.
I love it. Love it. Any props on that game?
Now that one, the one that intrigues me, and I don't think it's going to make my card, Jared Newman is a defenseman for the Chaos, and he can put the clamps on people. He's big, he's angry, he's tough, and he's going to be going up against a guy who really needs to bulldog players, and that's Matt Rambo. So I wish we were getting an inflated number on Rambo because he's been playing so well. If we had a 4.5, I would be slamming the under on Matt Rambo because the matchup doesn't really favor Matt Rambo against Jared Newman with what he's able to do. But at 3.5, I'm going to stay away. It's a lean for me on that one. I just think there's some better prop opportunities in the whole entire board. So I think the only play I'm going to have in this game is over that 22.5. And I'm going to stay away, not get baited into anything else. Though if you're able to find a 4.5, maybe you play those prize picks things. If it's sitting at 4 on any of those prize picks for Matt Rambo's total points, I would throw that in your prize picks lineup. But as far as betting 3.5 juice to the under, hell no, I ain't doing that.
Sunday, 2 p.m. Cannons at Archers. Currently, Archers minus 215 on the money line. Cannons plus 175. The tied for the highest total to the for the weekend, actually 24 and a hook, juiced over minus 120. You can grab the Archers minus 2.5 goals at minus 105, or the Cannons plus 2.5 minus 125.
Well, the question is, does Lyle Thompson play? He should be well rested. His name is not on the injury report. However, his name wasn't on the injury report the week that a couple minutes before the game we found out he wasn't going to be playing. So I think I'm going to stay away. I would lean with the Cannons getting the 2.5. Again, it's just been profitable. Take 2.5. As a matter of fact, Jeff, let me just grab these numbers for you real quick because, you know, I say all the time, oh, it's been a profitable endeavor. It's been a profitable endeavor taking underdogs. But how do we quantify that? Well, underdogs on the year, just blindly playing them this year, 13-7 are underdogs on the year. And that's even with the 1.5. So that's not even when we're getting the 2.5. The real stark number, that's the holy shit, let me sit down for this number. If you go back to last season, because we talked about, you know, we were cashing free money. The PLL for us last year, Jeff, was an ATM because all we did was just play underdogs, forget whatever the matchup is, just give me an underdog. And the reason is, factor in that 13-7 this year that's still profitable, blindly betting underdogs, albeit a little bit lesser. Last 2 years, underdogs against the spread are 68%. And you say, you know, what's the sample size on that? We have an over 60 sample size on that now. 42-20 underdogs against the spread, blindly playing these teams, 42-20 to the dog. So, I mean, how can I not make a case for an underdog every single time I come on here with you on Fridays when those are the kind of numbers we're getting? I just can't bet this game sidewise without knowing what's going to happen with Grant Ament, what's going to happen with Lyle Thompson. I think both of them end up playing. If they do, I think this is going to be an over game. We know that the Archers can score 20 goals by themselves, but until I have that information, I'm going to hang off on it because you're going to get that information before the game, and the line will not adjust to it. You're not going to have to beat the market on this. You can wait until you know who's going to be in and still get a pretty darn good number. I do have a best bet for you, though, in this game, and it's on a prop total. Nick Morocco, he's the goaltender for Cannons, and he's a damn good player. However, he weirdly has the highest total of the week on BetMGM for his save total. It's 15.5. And if you look at some of these other players, we're looking at 12.5 for Bernlohr, 13.5 for Reardon. We have 11.5 for Scanoni. So to me, what this number says is odds makers are scared shitless on this Archers offense. Because if you're going to have a guy with a save total this high, that figures they expect them to see 35, 40 shots, potentially more. The Cannons know they can't win this game if they give up that many shots. So 15.5 saves, and you're going to be trying to save the ball against the most prolific offense in the league. Give me that under all day. It's a 2-unit play for me. Under Nick Morocco, 15.5 saves. I think that's just a stale number on that one.
I'm in. 4:30, wrapping up the weekend action. Chrome at Water Dogs. Money line right now, Chrome minus 145, Water Dogs plus 15. Another 24.5 total. This one juiced also over. This one only at minus 115. You can grab the Chrome minus a goal and a half, plus 100 even money. The Water Dogs plus 1.5, minus 130.
Yeah, if you're gonna bet this game sidewise, I would just throw the spread out of it, to be honest with you. I think whoever wins this game is going to cover this game. I mean, obviously, if the Water Dogs win, they've covered the game. So I would just take the spread out of the equation, and potentially, if you like the Water Dogs, just get a little bit of plus money on them. I could see them winning this game because, again, I'm not handicapping the side this week because Chrome just lost the game, right? Chrome lost their first game 2 weeks ago. Have they been stewing on it? Are they frustrated about it? I don't know. What I do know is in the All-Star game, Chrome players and Scanoni, their goalie, looked like they didn't even want to be there. So to me, that tells me that Chrome could have cared less about what was happening at Gillette Stadium last weekend. They're going to be focused on this game. However, that's just a guess. I can't quantify that. We're not in the guessing business, Jeff. We're in the analytics business. So while that's my lean is towards Chrome bouncing back and winning this game because Water Dogs probably fat and sassy. The Water Dogs have not lost a game since they lost a 17-14 comeback win for Chrome. They've won 2 straight games. Everybody's saying the Water Dogs are back. I don't know if I'm quite buying into that one. Who I do think is going to have a bounce back game, and another best bet for me this week, is going to that total saves again on Scanoni for the Chrome. 11.5. 11.5? Give me the over on that one. This guy just got absolutely diced up in the All-Star game. If there's one guy who wants to take the stank out of his mouth, not only about a loss, but about really getting embarrassed by the best players on the brightest stage in the All-Star game, Scanoni's going to be up for this game. And we've already seen him go over this total several times this year, and he's playing a Water Dogs team that averages the most shots per game in the league. Scanoni's going to have his chances, whether they're good shots or bad shots. They're going to be putting them on cage, are the Water Dogs. If the Chrome win this game, Scanoni's going over this number. Give me Scanoni all day over 11.5 saves. So that's the final bet that I have on this weekend, though. The other lean I have is over on Kieran McCardle. He plays for the Water Dogs. He had a big game before the break. Another off-market number on BetMGM. His total is only 2.5. So let's say he scores a 2-point goal and gets an assist. Let's say he fills up 2 assists and a goal. We're over that 2.5. So I don't know if it'll make my card. I really like these goalie saves because it's the first time they've been offered. Some people say, oh, well, I want to stay away from that. I want to see what the market is. Hell no, Jeff. I want to dive into the numbers and say these numbers that the odds makers are putting up potentially could be bad ones. So give me that over on Scanoni all day long. I think that's a bad number that should be around 13.5.
Before we wrap it up, we talked when we started the show, second half, and we got the standings. We went over the standings. We went over the injury report. We talked about what these teams have done before the break, what we expect after. Give me a newbie crazy thought for the second half, whether it's a team, a player, a firing of a coach. Give me something that's going to shock the airwaves.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it would be shocking if the Redwoods can turn this thing around. Like, that's what I mean is because it's such a tight-knit community. Like, if I was in the Redwoods position, I would have fired Nat St. Laurent heading into the break, because it's not just oh my God, look at how bad we've been this season. He's made it to the playoffs. He's had better rosters. And then I don't want to say he chokes it away, but the team doesn't exceed or even meet the expectations that they could have. So I don't know if it's a crazy hot take to say that, that he's going to end up getting it home. What I do think, if I got to come up with a real hot take, I I know Trevor Baptiste, he's getting a lot of love for the MVP futures. Jeff Teat, he's still been around the odds-on favorite, even though I think he's taken a little bit of a back seat. You know what? I'll go with a Philly guy through and through here. Let's say Michael Sowers, he's 12-1 to win MVP right now. He plays for the Water Dogs. If the Water Dogs are as good as everybody says they are, I don't really believe it. If they are, it's because Michael Sowers is balling out. How about a prediction, Jeff? He's at 1,200 right now. By how many weeks do we have left? Let me look at the schedule here. Because let's see, we got Connecticut this weekend. We have Texas next weekend. August 5th, they're in Colorado. They go to Salt Lake City August 12th. August 20th, they're in Seattle, and then it's playoffs. So we have 5 weeks left. By the games in Salt Lake City, Michael Sowers will be top 3 MVP odds. So get in on Michael Sowers at plus 1,200 right now. The hot take we're throwing out there, by the time we talk for Salt Lake City, my birthday weekend, August 12th, Jeff, when we do our show on my birthday, August 11th, we're going to be talking about Michael Sowers being a top 3 odds-on favorite. He may even overtake a Will Manny. He may even overtake a Lyle Thompson. So let's get the ticket in now. I'm going to place it myself with you, brother.
I'm in. Great. As always, we covered the board. We talked props. We talked window shopping, some hot takes. Couldn't be happier. Super psyched to get something other than baseball again to watch on TV. This last week especially has been so damn brutal, let me tell you that. But with that said, as always, the crawler has been going throughout the show. You can follow Dan on Twitter at Newbie Talks, on Bet on Lacrosse, at the Cash Consideration Show, Wager Talk, 8:30 a.m. WEEU at Premier Lacrosse. Take it away, Dan. Tell them where else they can find you.
Oh, you did a great job running it down for sure. So looking forward to being with you next week. Also, check out the games this weekend. 3 of the 4 games are going to be on ESPN2. So you don't even have to fire up the Roku. Don't have to fire up your streaming device. 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time tomorrow, Redwoods Atlas on ESPN2. Then you got Cannons Archers at 2 o'clock on Sunday. You got Chrome Water Dogs at 4:30 on Sunday. All nationally televised games. And Jeff, I never lie to you. I got my ticket there. Michael Sowers on BetMGM. We're getting an extra 200. He's 14-1 on MGM. So shop around like we told you. Get the best of the number. And until next time, Jeff, always a pleasure, my man. Thank you.
Can't thank you enough. The one and only Dan Alexander here with us weekly from PA, Philly in the house. Every Friday at 2:30, we can catch him. Always remember this, peeps. If you are wagering today, just do it responsibly. If you do have a problem, ask for help. Yes, go Birds, go. Wait till this fall. We get something nice that I talked to Dan behind the scenes that we're brewing up that we will be live from PA. We'll be talking some Jalen Hurts on a weekly basis. Will Miles Sanders finally live up to that reputation? I've been waiting for years.
Let's just have him score. Let's just have him score a damn touchdown, Jeff. Shit, he didn't get in the end zone one time last year. So here's a little tease, Jeff. I know we got to run. Best bet week 1, Miles Sanders touchdown. Anytime touchdown score, place the bet now. He's getting his ass in the end zone week 1.
Well, I've started up the drafting for my preliminary high stakes leagues, getting in some slow drafts just to get a feel for the flow and stuff. And they're gift wrapping me Miles Sanders in like the 7th, 8th round. Listen, I was there last year. If you're going to gift wrap me this, I love the offense. I think Goddard has an amazing year. I think Devontae Smith takes the next step up. Obviously, a nice addition to your number 1 wide receiver. It'll be interesting to see how he fits in a defense that is always putting pressure on the quarterback. So I can't wait, Dan. I can't.
Man after my own heart. I mean, I always love you, Jeff, but when you're pumping up the Eagles at the end of the show, man, I got to drive up there and give you a big old hug, brother. Let's go. I'm pumped up for football, baby.
Thank all the watchers, all the listeners. Don't be afraid to retweet. It's like tipping the dealer. As always, thanks to Dan. Myself and Scott Webb will be back at 4:30 for the closing bell. Everyone else, get those tickets in window shop. If you don't have a BetMGM account and you can get one, please. The more the merrier, especially as we get ready for the fall. So thanks again to Dan, myself, and we will see you soon.